Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
There is a lot of business to be done when a married couple makes the decision to part company. A lot of questions about what becomes of the children, what becomes of their house, what becomes of all of their shared assets. It's funny, I'm lucky enough never to have been divorced, but, my parents have been divorced multiple times, and I've had many friends that have been divorced, and I can tell you almost without exception that going through a divorce is among the most traumatic things that a family can go through. It's very difficult for everybody, and very rarely do you say, all right, I feel better during the process of a divorce. You may feel better after, but it's a tough thing during. So how does the process get a little bit easier? Well, there's an interesting book called Divorce Matters, What You Really Need to Know When It's Time to Get a Divorce. Its author is experienced family law attorney Kathy Boufford. Kathy, thanks so much for joining me on the radio.
Thank you for having me.
Kathy, what made you write this book? What makes you think the people are in need of kind of a guide, what you need to know when getting divorced?
30 years of experience. So two things. People are very fearful about the divorce process, and they don't even know, like you said, divorce is very prevalent, and they hear about divorce a lot, and there's a lot of movies about divorce, TV shows, so on and so forth. When it comes down to their divorce, they really feel like they don't have a lot of information, and the information that they often come to me with is bad information from either other people or just from other sources that were incomplete and don't apply to their cases, or the case in general. So it was really to educate people and to give them a little bit of peace of mind going into the process, because as you know, knowledge is power. So if they can at least, have an easy to read overview of the process, what to expect. And then the other thing was just to prevent some common mistakes that I would see people have already done, either out of fear, anger, all the emotions that come with divorce. I'm trying to see if I can maybe prevent that by having them know, oh, this is not a good idea. I should talk to someone first, so that I wouldn't have to hear, I wish I had talked to you first.
It sounds like this is something that a lot of would-be divorced couples should all keep in mind. Before we get to the point of divorce, what, in your experience, are the most common reasons that a married couple chooses to get divorced?
Well, probably up there is financial stresses. I mean, that's just, something that is the difficulty with finances is always going to be a stressor on a marriage, even marriages that last a long time. It's just something that couples have to deal with. But if the parties feel differently about money, spending habits, saving habits, the amount of money that's made or sought during the marriage, if the couples are not in sync, then that just adds to more frustration and it grows over the years. So I would say financial is really, pretty far up there. And then unfortunately, just, the longer the marriages last, sometimes people just do drift apart, and they'll come and they'll tell me that, they'll start by saying it's communication, but really it's they're changing and they're not growing together. Oftentimes people grow apart for one reason or another, and that's unfortunate, but that just happens.
For a long time, they've cited about half of marriages ending in divorce. Is the number of divorces trending up or down in the country?
It's going down. I think mostly there was a big uptick during and following the pandemic. So I think it's going back down to the levels that they were. But you also have, I think, the marriage rate declining at the same time. People are getting married, if they are getting married, in a much later time. So I think that is also affecting the number of divorces.
All right. For someone that is contemplating divorce, obviously the first steps can be pretty overwhelming. What do you believe is the most important first step for someone considering divorce to take before they even contact a lawyer?
Before they contact a lawyer, get information, any information that you can about the process, such as a book, but it doesn't have to be my book, but make sure you get good information. And depending on the situation, talk with your spouse. Some people can't, or there could be safety issues to do that. So obviously they have to be mindful of that. But there's a lot of people that come to see me and they haven't even discussed the divorce with their spouse yet. And in most cases, it's a good idea to sit down and have that conversation just to decide. And the book explains there are different processes to getting a divorce. Everyone thinks that people are just going to go to court and it's going to be a long, drawn-out battle, and it's that war to be one type of situation. But there are ways to get divorce that aren't through the typical, long, drawn-out battle through court. You can you can get divorced by mediation. You can get divorced if it's allowed in your state by something called the collaborative method of divorce. And these are much more amicable processes. They're not for everyone, but if you don't talk about it and don't even at least know a lot of people don't even know these friendlier options exist or understand them, then you don't know. And even if it's going to go through court, at least having the discussion, you'll know maybe what you can agree on and what you can't agree on, and minimize the amount of issues that need to be litigated, discussed. And then, of course, that all results in paying more money for the attorneys to help you through that.
I know you spend a lot of time in the book talking about mediation. What sorts of couples are the ones that should consider mediation, or really should everybody consider mediation?
Everybody should consider it. Obviously, there are couples that mediation is not going to be a good path for them. So, first of all, both parties have to kind of buy into the idea of mediation. So in other words, it's a totally voluntary process. So if one person just doesn't want to do it, or is only doing it because someone's twisting their arm or they're feeling forced to do it, then that's not going to end up, to be successful. There's a lot of people that deal with mental health issues. There's a lot of people that deal with substance abuse issues. It's not that those people can't go through mediation, but it really, there's I call that a red flag issue. So we really need to kind of explore if they're going to be a good fit for mediation. But in general, I don't see why anyone wouldn't explore the possibility of mediation, learn about it, because it's a much, better process emotionally, financially, for privacy reasons. There's a lot of reasons why mediation is more beneficial than going through the litigated process.
The best movie about the divorce process, or one of the best movies about the divorce process that I've ever seen, is War of the Roses with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. And in that film, Danny DeVito is a divorce attorney, a real specialist, and he does what he can to give advice to different couples, does whatever he can to dissuade them from divorce. And he really, like in this scene, tries to explain that when they're talking about doing something that's totally irrational, that it just makes no sense. This is War of the Roses.
The red areas are hers. The yellow areas are mine. Green is neutral. The kitchen was difficult, but Barbara came up with the idea of time allotment. This seems rational to you both? Yeah.
So Danny DeVito strikes me as a very reasonable divorce attorney in that picture. Finding the right professional for divorce seems pretty essential. What qualities should people prioritize when choosing an attorney, especially if they expect a contentious divorce?
Well, first you want to find the right fit. So there's different people and different personalities, right? And you want someone that you're going to be able to work with. Your attorney is going to be your partner. You should be partners with the attorney. If you have an attorney that just wants to run the show and not listen to you at all, then run away from that attorney very quickly. I have a lot of people come to me after they've gone through a bad experience with an attorney, and one of the first things they tell me is, wow, you're actually listening to me. You actually, let me finish a sentence before you tell me, what we're going to do or what you think we should do. You have to feel comfortable with your attorney. Your attorney has to listen to you. And there's just a lot of attorneys out there that don't. So find someone you're comfortable with. Everyone has a different style. Some people like more explanation. Some people like the attorney to take charge somewhat. They still should listen, but they want the attorney to do all the heavy lifting. Make sure you find the right fit. And then obviously, if you expect the matter to be contentious, then you definitely want an attorney who's going to feel comfortable and who's going to make you feel comfortable representing you in court. You want someone who tries to reach an agreement, but you definitely don't want the attorneys, and again, they're out there, that'll, say they're going to fight, we'll fight for you, we'll go head to head, we'll go to trial, but then at the end of the day, when trial's there, they're trying to get you to settle because they really don't want to go through trial because they're uncomfortable or they're nervous or they're not really experienced with trial. You want to have someone who's going to be confident.
Obviously, divorce can deeply impact children. What advice do you give clients in order to help minimize the emotional toll on their children?
I try to really just remind them that children, pick up on things really easy. And even through best intentions, parties who are going through a divorce, it's really hard to hide the emotional toll that it takes on you. And even if they're not actively arguing in front of the children, children still do pick up on what's going on. So just be very careful, be very mindful. Always try to do everything that's child-centric, especially when you're trying to work out a parenting plan. The worst thing you can do is have a judge decide when and how you're going to see your kids. If at all possible, try to sit down, use a professional, sit down with a mental health professional. Your attorney can help you find one. People at the courts can help you find one. Family therapists, they can sit down and work with you to try to come to an agreement. You can fight over the money. It's great to come to an agreement on the money, but really try to come to an agreement on the children.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Choosing a bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drink that's all flavor and just 100 calories? Easy. Choosing between creamy vanilla, double chocolate, and sea salt caramel flavors? A little harder. Try the delicious new Starbucks Frappuccino light drinks. Look for them wherever you buy groceries. Start with Starbucks coffee.
In state and local government, tech upgrades aren't optional. They're essential. Whether it's improving digital services, protecting public data, or modernizing outdated systems, the demand for skilled IT professionals has never been higher. CBT Nuggets helps you stay ahead with affordable, on-demand IT training that's built for your schedule. Our short, practical videos and hands-on virtual labs make it easy to build real-world skills in networking, cybersecurity, cloud technologies, and more. You don't need expensive hardware or complicated setups, just a browser and the motivation to grow. Whether you're an IT admin, public service tech, or new to the field, CBT Nuggets gives you the tools to better support your team and your community. And with new content added regularly, there's always something relevant to learn. Join thousands of learners who are upgrading their skills and advancing their careers. Start your 7-day free trial today at cbtnuggets.com. Because smarter tech skills don't just help you, they help your whole community succeed.
You spend a lot of time in the book focusing on hidden assets. Is that a common problem? Is that a common bone of contention with people?
Yes, both real and imaginary. So it is very often the case that someone is either hiding income or they're hiding assets or they're dissipating assets. So dissipating income, in a hidden manner. Maybe they have a gambling problem. Maybe they have, there's an affair going on. It could just be that they're purchasing things, on a separate credit card just because they know that the other spouse doesn't want them to be spending money. So that happens a lot. But there's also people come to me quite often and think that there's extra money out there or that the person is doing all those things I just said. And sometimes it's not the case. So either way, we kind of have to look at it. We have to do that's where that discovery comes in. A lot of people get so frustrated over how much paperwork is involved. But as attorneys, we have to do our due diligence, whether someone has a real concern or not, and at least do a minimum review just to see if there are any red flags that show up with the finances. And certainly if a person has concerns, then usually we've got to dig and scratch a little bit more to make sure that, number one, if there is something, we uncover it or hand it over to someone who can, if it's a little too deep for us. But and if there's not, then at least be able to, kind of tell our client, look, I understand you have these concerns, but we've done X, Y, and Z, and we do not see any red flags, so that they feel comfortable moving forward. Because, again, trust is a big thing, and, you can't get someone to agree and to talk about settlement if they think that there's something out there that we haven't, looked into appropriately.
Is maybe a little too personal, but I'm reminded of the old expression that the cobbler's children go without shoes. I'm wondering if you've ever been through the divorce process yourself and how your legal training and your legal expertise may have played a role in that whole thing.
I have not. I have been fortunate. I've been married 30 years.
Wow.
My parents, they're going on, I think they're going on 55 years. I have not. So, on the plus side, I don't carry any biases. I don't carry any baggage with me. All of my kind of experience has been through the skin of my clients. It's been through 30 years of helping them kind of go through the fire. And I use that experience to try to help them, try to put them in a better place. Certainly with the marriage, I'm certainly, aware of the stresses of marriage, and I can certainly relate to difficulties that people share with me in that sense.
Your book does end on a hopeful note. It emphasizes a positive post-divorce life. We've even seen articles, I've talked about it on the show before, of people, I think mostly women, but I'm sure guys do it too, who have these divorce parties. What steps do you encourage clients to take towards building that sort of a positive future, even as they're in the midst of a very difficult divorce?
Sure. Well, one of the things we're always doing is talking about the future, and a lot of times that's very divorce related because I need them to envision where they're going to be afterwards. Both to try to, get them a little bit out of their head and out of that trauma that they're in right now and kind of assure them that they are going to be in a better place, but also to get them, especially thinking about finances, when we work and plan on what do you need going forward? Where are you going to be? What are you going to do? What do you think you're going to do if maybe they need to change jobs, or maybe they need to get a job? So all of that is kind of through the process of talking about what will be, and a lot of reassuring and talking about how things, can be better. Like even when we're doing the parenting plans, people are so focused on what is not going to be anymore, how everything is going to change. And while that's true, I try to put the focus on, okay, well, this is an opportunity for you to, maybe keep the things, keep the traditions, the ones that you want to keep. You can still retain them in some way, shape, or form. And maybe some things that you didn't like, or maybe some aspect of the parenting that you didn't feel comfortable with, you can now change. You can kind of start a new chapter, do new things with the kids, maybe take them new places, start new traditions. It's an ongoing dialogue that I have with them that hopefully they will carry that through, as they exit that divorce process and kind of come into their own.
What advice?
I tell them there's still a life, there's still a life after divorce, and you can't just keep looking back. You got to look forward.
Speak to the people listening in difficult relationships right now, difficult marriages specifically. What advice would you give to someone who isn't sure whether to stay in a difficult marriage or go through with a divorce? Are there signs that it might be time to leave?
Well, sure. I mean, there's always signs, right? Because people are always going to tell me later, I should have listened to my gut. I should have done this a lot sooner, is what a lot of people tell me. So, I think the gut is there for a reason. I don't think that people should make any quick decisions ever, knee-jerk reactions. But if something is going on for a long time and you're not comfortable and your gut is telling you that something is not right, then I think in most cases you owe it to yourself to listen to that. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean you have to go out and, announce that you're getting a divorce. It doesn't mean that you even have to tell your spouse at that time that you're getting a divorce. But I think you should talk to somebody. I think you can either consult with an attorney and just explore, what you're feeling and what your options might be. A good attorney is not going to tell you immediately to file a divorce. A good attorney is going to walk through that and maybe direct you to marriage counseling, maybe direct you to have a conversation with your spouse, maybe direct you to, a personal therapist that you can talk these issues through. But they can also tell you if divorce is the option that you're going to go forward, these are different ways you can divorce. So you can get educated on the mediation process, maybe the collaborative process, and also kind of highlight, just whatever good advice they can give you at the start of the process. Like, here's what you need to think about if you go down that route. Well, listen to yourself.
Yeah, that's good advice. And if people are just tuning in, we've been talking with Kathy Boufford. Her book is Divorce Matters, What You Really Need to Know When It's Time to Get a Divorce. You can get it on Amazon or wherever books are available. Kathy, I'll end with this. Speak to, if you could give a piece of advice to every couple before they even get married, based on your divorce work, what would it be? What would you tell them?
Oh, boy. Well, I mean, don't rush into anything and really talk about what you think a marriage is before you get married and what your expectations are of each other. Talk about finances. Talk about whether you want to have children. These all seem like really, basic instructions, so to speak, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't have those conversations. And then those are the little things are the big things, right? So the little things that you think of, we'll work this out. Really, they grow into bigger problems down the road. So definitely discuss finances, definitely discuss what the expectations are as far as work goes, as far as where you expect to live. People come to me and say, well, we got married and then all of a sudden I had to move here, or we got married and, I didn't think it was going to be this way. And of course, there's a lot of different ways that is. I won't go into that now, but, they obviously didn't have those conversations beforehand. So that's probably the best advice I can give.
All right, Kathy, I really appreciate you staying up late with us. Thank you. Good luck with the book.
Thank you so much.
My guest, Kathy Boufford, Divorce Matters. If you want to comment, you can certainly give me a call, 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.